We all like to see the good guy win. It's totally normal. Be it reading it in a comic, watching it in a movie or a cartoon, or playing it in a video game, the satisfaction of winning the day is awesome. Unless you're like me and you can't stand a squeaky clean good guy. You need a good guy who's a total badass, with attitude, willing to take on anyone. Some people like to call them anti-heroes. I like to call them gangster. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and I'm looking at 10 of the most gangster heroes around. Vegeta. Born the prince of all Saiyans and then deprived of his birthright by Frieza, Vegeta is the most badass character in all of Dragon Ball and one of the most badass heroes of all time. From the time we first met him while he was monitoring the fight between Goku, Piccolo, and Raditz, you knew you were dealing with a force to be reckoned with. A man so driven to be the best, he would put it all on the line repeatedly in order to become stronger. His hit list is impressive and includes destroying entire planets and wiping out entire populations, killing his own partner Nappa, several highly formidable soldiers under Frieza's command, and all the members of the Ginyu Force. But that would only foreshadow the events to come. After witnessing Goku ascend to the level of Super Saiyan, he would journey into space and train endlessly until he too reached this level of power. He would ally himself with the heroes from Earth, battle against Dr. Gero and his androids, mercilessly killing Android 19. After a highly frustrating defeat by the androids 17 and 18, he would regroup and enter the hyperbolic time chamber, and train until he ascended beyond the power of a Super Saiyan. He would land the blow on Cell that allowed Gohan to defeat the overpowered android. Later, he would allow himself to be possessed by Babidi in order to become even stronger, but even then he was able to resist Babidi's magical control. He would sacrifice himself in an all-out attack against Buu that would prove inadequate. In Dragon Ball GT, we would watch him match Goku time and time again, becoming Super Saiyan's level 4. Though that's not canon, it does still count. And even into the present, we watched as he has become a Super Saiyan God Super Saiyan, a level of power so radical and unimaginable, it literally blows your mind. Damian Wayne. With an attitude to match the previous entry, Damian Wayne is a kid with a major chip on his shoulder. The son of Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, he was raised and trained within the League of Assassins for years before being sent to sabotage his father. Long story short, he was made into Batman's sidekick, Robin, instead. Damian Wayne possesses a level of maturity and intelligence that is frightening for a child. He is a strategic genius and a martial arts master, well trained in several fighting styles and with several weapons. He is so formidable that he has defeated both Jason Todd the Red Hood and Tim Drake the Red Robin, and is capable of putting up a fight against his father, though he cannot defeat him. Along with his superior fighting abilities, he is a skilled detective with a firm grasp of both forensics as well as criminology that is on par with the Batman himself. He even once built a flying Batmobile, or finished a flying Batmobile based on his father's plans, showing both a mechanical inclination and an engineering prowess. He did briefly have superpowers, though this was very brief and only after he was resurrected after being killed by Glorious Godfrey. Though he is a hero, he has a dark side. Starting out being trained by the League of Assassins, he has been swayed into joining the Court of Owls. He has squared off against his father in Batman vs. Robin, and was a major part of the Teen Titans vs. the Justice League conflict. Victor Von Doom, the infamous Iron Man. Dr. Doom was perhaps one of the most identifiable villains at one point, second only to the Joker, or maybe Magneto. He is one of the two smartest people in the universe, though with Reed Richards out reconstructing the multiverse, he very well may be the smartest. With his vast intellect, he is a genius scientist and a master sorcerer. After managing to defeat the Beyonders, with the help of Doctor Strange and Owen Reese, Doom would seize their power for himself and become a god. He would subsequently be defeated by Reed Richards again, who would take the power of the Beyonders from him, but would also heal and repair Doom's scarred face. After this, we would see the new Victor Von Doom popping up several times to assist Tony Stark in the all-new, all-different Invincible Iron Man. After the defeat of Tony Stark by Captain Marvel, Victor Von Doom knew what had to be done. He went to the lab of Tony Stark and took what he needed. As a good guy, Doom has rescued Maria Hill while she was still director of S.H.I.E.L.D., who had been captured by Diablo. Doom appears, lays a fierce lyrical beatdown on the third-class villain, and then vaporizes him. Next, we see him pay a visit to the Mad Thinker. He offers him an ultimatum: give up being evil or be killed. The Mad Thinker viciously refuses, taking a few shots at Doom, but Doom ends up making short work of the Mad Thinker. Now, currently Doom seems ready to kill a bad guy at the drop of a hat, but is showing restraint, as he has refused to fight the Thing when he was attacked first, and has even recently assisted the Avengers. The Red Hood. Jason Todd, the Red Hood, is without a doubt a total gangster. He started out with the deck stacked against him. Born to less than subpar parents, Jason would have to make his way himself in the street in order to survive. He would be adopted by Batman and assume the role of Robin since Dick Grayson had moved on to become Nightwing. Though he was a natural and well trained by Batman, Jason had a wild streak. Unfortunately, Jason would be outsmarted and beat to death by the Joker, a very gruesome death beaten down with a crowbar. He would be resurrected due to something with Superboy Prime punching the barrier between dimensions, and then eventually cross paths with Talia al Ghul. He would be immersed in the Lazarus Pit and would regain all of his memories and health. After all of this, he would set out to train and learn in order to defeat Batman, becoming a master in various new martial arts, a variety of weapons. He, unlike Batman, has no qualms about killing. To date, he has killed more criminals and villains throughout his adventures than Batman is probably willing to admit. After returning to Gotham and sorta reuniting with Batman, he would join Batman Incorporated and would later head up his own team, Red Hood and the Outlaws. Rick Grimes. Now here's a character who got a rough start. Rick Grimes was a small-town deputy sheriff who took a bullet to the gut one day while on the job and was left in a coma for an undetermined amount of time. Rick then wakes up to the zombie apocalypse with no warning and no one around. He manages to reunite with his family and even gets to see his best friend die. He over time becomes the leader of the group and bolsters its numbers as they move into a prison. However, all this good is abruptly stopped when they meet the Governor, a dangerous and unstable man who manages to cut one of Rick's hands off. But even with his new handicap, Rick manages to defeat the Governor, but not without heavy losses on his own side, and the total loss of the prison. After this, Rick decides to go to Washington, D.C. with Sergeant Abraham Ford to escort a scientist who supposedly has the cure to whatever the sickness is that has caused the end of the world. Long story short, it's a bust. The scientist is a liar. After this, Rick and his group are discovered and recruited to the Alexandria Safe Zone, where they later find another town similar called the Hilltop Colony. The Hilltop has a problem, and its name is Negan. Rick and his group manage to kill a large number of Negan's group known as the Saviors, before they hit a brick wall and are brought to a screeching halt by Negan himself. At first, Rick seems beaten, until he unites all the forces against the Saviors and Negan. He leads an army into battle, and thanks to some brilliant strategy and an inside man named Dwight, Negan is defeated and imprisoned. Now Rick has been in more of a lead-from-behind role since All Out War and Whisperer War. But, that being said, Rick is a fierce fighter. He has torn several people's throats out with just his teeth. He's practically a marksman with a pistol, and it's completely logical to say that he is the force to be reckoned with in the world of The Walking Dead. Rorschach. Perhaps the best remembered and most popular character in the Watchmen series, Rorschach is an incorruptible, no-nonsense, nearly unstoppable force of nature. With his never-surrender attitude, his trench coat, and unmistakable face mask, Rorschach is a one-man army waging war against the criminal underworld of New York. During the Watchman's story, it's Rorschach who investigates the comedian's murder, and over time figures out that Ozymandias, the billionaire hero businessman, was behind the murder and the mastermind of a genius-twisted plan to unite the world by faking an interdimensional attack. Rorschach throughout the series seems to keep a no-nonsense, cool, calm demeanor, but in reality he is a vicious and unrelenting psychopath who will break your fingers one at a time if you get out of line, and that's if you're lucky. As we find out, he will kill you without a second thought should you commit certain evil acts, and after he is framed for the murder of a retired villain and subsequently imprisoned, he kills an inmate who threatens him by dousing him with hot grease from a deep fryer, and during a resulting riot, Rorschach manages to kill 2 more prisoners without even leaving his cell, much to the dismay of the big figure, an imprisoned gangster who had hoped to have Rorschach murdered. During the riot, Rorschach is busted out by the Silk Spectre and Night Owl, and then they head straight to confront Ozymandias, which doesn't end too well. As the story came to an end, Rorschach was killed by Dr. Manhattan for not being able to keep quiet. His stubbornness and unwavering dedication to telling the truth and punishing evil would be a liability to the new peace on Earth. The Punisher. Everybody knows who the Punisher is. Frank Castle is the one-man army of Marvel Comics, a former U.S. Marine who moved up to become a full-blown Navy SEAL. He would serve in Vietnam as a point man with Special Forces, and pretty much defined the word badass. Once Frank returned home, he was having a picnic with his wife and children, when unfortunately for them, they inadvertently witnessed the Mafia execute an informant. They were immediately gunned down, only Frank survived. And even though he could identify everyone involved in the murder of his family, no justice would be served due to the police being in the Costa family pocket. Frank would take matters into his own hands, hunting down and killing every single individual involved, believing physical destruction is the only punishment worthy of such scum. Even though the Punisher has no powers or enhanced abilities, he has proven to be completely unstoppable. He may even be the most feared character in all of Marvel. He has killed more mobsters and villains than any other human in history, and has even killed the entire Marvel Universe. Edward Kenway. The hard-drinking, swashbuckling, ship-sailing, tavern-fighting, gun-shooting badass. Edward Kenway was a gangster for sure. We met him as a pirate, and after a 1 in a million chance meeting with a treacherous assassin, Edward sets off on one of the most insane journeys in the Assassin's Creed franchise. Masquerading as an assassin, Edward is inducted into the Templars, finds out about the observatory, and decides to take it for himself. He is then caught, thrown in a prison ship, busts out of a prison ship, frees a bunch of other prisoners, and steals a brig to begin his own adventure. After this, he helps found a pirate republic in Nassau, loses several friends and allies, and allies himself with the assassins. He is perhaps the most well-armed assassin in playable history, sporting 4 pistols, 2 hidden blades, 2 swords, a blowpipe, a variety of poison darts, smoke bombs, rope darts, and throwing knives. He is naturally gifted in combat, being able to hold his own against any foe, despite the fact he has absolutely no formal training. Every person who's betrayed him or attempted to stop his progress usually ends up stabbed to death. Even Captain Jack Sparrow admits in the AC Black Flag trailer he doesn't want any problems with Edward Kenway. John Constantine. Known as the Hellblazer, John Constantine is a very cynical, extremely smart, fearless, chain-smoking occult detective. A man doomed to hell for eternity after screwing over several very powerful demons, who insists on angering them even further before he dies. He will literally screw over the lords of hell and mock them afterwards. He was able to trick the first of the fallen, a powerful lord of hell, into drinking holy water, when he showed up to collect a soul that had been sold to him. After this, Constantine would sell his soul to two other lords of hell, which would seem less than intelligent, until you consider that the hell lords would have to go to all-out war with one another in order to claim his soul. So instead, they cure his cancer to prevent him from dying. Not many heroes are capable of screwing over hell in such a fashion. In order to prevent total calamity, they would have to abandon their claims on his soul. He is incredibly cunning and totally unpredictable. Currently, he is a member of the Justice League Dark, a gathering of heroes who can deal with magic and the occult. This probably will lead to even more awesome adventures that will only add to the mystique of this awesome character. Deadpool. The Merc with the Mouth, the regenerating degenerate, the most popular character in Marvel Comics. I'm sure he needs no introduction, but just in case. Wade Wilson was a mercenary who got cancer, joined an experimental weapons program, received insane healing factors as well as enhanced strength and incredible speed. Unfortunately, it spread his cancer all over his body. That aside, Deadpool is responsible for some of the most insanely gangster moments in the history of Marvel. He has fought and killed dead presidents, and then killed them again. He has killed the entire universe, as well as the literary universe, fought and defeated Dracula and married the Queen of the Dead. He has been a member of the X-Men, the X-Force, the Avengers, the New Mutants, and even more. He has annihilated countless members of both Hydra and AIM. But one of his most gangster moments ever occurred when a group known as Ultimatum threatened his daughter. Deadpool led the entire organization into the desert and killed every member, including the leader, Flag Smasher, putting a hole straight through his head. Very graphic. And that's the list. Did I miss something? Do you know something even better? Tell me about it in the comments below. I'm Walt, the most gangster nerd on YouTube, and I'll see you around.